Tēnā tātou katoa ngā mihi nui. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, ngā tangata o ngā hauri whā. So, tēnā koe, Shekinah. Tēnā koe, mihi manawa. So I was just greeting you in our native language and everyone who joins us today from the four winds, from the four corners of the earth, bringing into the sacred space with my sister and sister, Shekinah, and a beautiful friend who's come with us just to play in this space as we open into the eclipse. Shekinah,
Yeah.
to you, my friend.
Kia ora, says Kitty Kitty, representative of the Lyrians, the little pussycat peoples. And I had a vision as I was tuning in with you. And here I sit in Turtle Island up in North America, yes, in Canada, to be specific. And I was just, connecting out to you telepathically. And I was seeing us hugging each other from the north, more like to the east, down to the southwest of where you are from me. And we just had this beautiful embrace, like from, like this across Mama Earth, across Pachamama, however you like to call her, Inamaka. There's many names we call her. But we just had this beautiful connection, and it felt very motherly, as we are both mothers and we are both sisters, and just this female, feminine. As I see you crowned in that beautiful zodiac crown, as if you were like a cosmic goddess. I've been seeing a lot of the Aquarian star maiden, as I like to say. She has that picture, right? And it's star water. It's like water that is of the cosmos, highly holy charged water, and she's just pouring it onto us. And so you feel like you are a good ambassador of that energy. And so kia ora, and a big hug from North America, Turtle Island.
Wrapping down to the bottom of the world in the south, where the weird thing is we are the bottom of the world, but we are 12 hours or 18 hours ahead, I think. So I'm in Waitakere, which is the bush in the North Island in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And my time zone is right on 10 o'clock. What's your time, Shekinah? What is?
We are now at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard or Pacific Daylight Time.
The day before, so you're Sunday.
So I'm Sunday the 7th, and you are already on our eclipse day.
I know.
So tomorrow is our big day for the eclipse. So, and yeah.
Which is
and I wanted to just.
Oh, sorry, you, Karen.
No, go ahead. It's your show.
I was just going to say, no, it's not our show. It's so important for everyone who tunes in to this, because we'll play it on the great day of the eclipse. But we've started it. So that mihi, that call that just was put out, and it's not just from the north to the south. It's not just from Shekinah and me, but it's actually resounding across the world, papa tuanuku i kamata, and across wider into the galaxy and all of our star people who we're connected to in our home planet. So we are starting this on an 88 resonance down under. And here we stand, down under. And you are going to pick it up all on your timeline and when the eclipse starts, or for everyone who's listening, or if you're playing the replay. The 88 resonance is beaming at us. And yeah, I just think it's a real blessing to be able to particularly share the oracle that has come through you, Shekinah, not just with Mr. Pussycat, Mrs. Pussycat.
This is Ruby.
Oh,
Ruby.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Look at her face.
Yeah, she's quite the healer, magician, angel cat. Yes.
No.
She's always picking up when the energy gets special. And she just shows up out of nowhere. I've been sitting here for a half an hour. Right as you pop on, she shows up. So Psychic Kitty Cat Nation.
Kia ora,
Mhm.
Ruby.
Yeah.
Welcome to I think I like to send out a bit of love, aroha, to all the cats, all the felines, and all the feline creatures in the world, because I think that we underestimate the spaces and the frequencies that our beautiful pussycats, our feline ancestors, actually
Well,
hold
they're
for us.
frequency transmitters, yes. So
Yeah.
the purr is connected to our bliss, and that's connected to our lucidity, which is why the feline will stare out into some what we perceive as space, but yet be having a full contact with beings that we may or may not perceive. So my cats, I have three, they will be connected to dimensions and realms, and they'll just start purring. And that's how I know there's either an angel or some lovely guide guardian showing up, because I'm like, Kitty's purring. The transducer is working, the transmitter is on. So, yeah.
Love
And
it.
then if they come to you and they'll sit at certain places, and then they'll just start kneading and, like the pushing and then the pulsing of their purr. And it's very connected to Lyra, right? And the feline, the cat, star nation, lost star seeds, Lyran star seeds. And there's a whole story on that, which I really have been able to swim in the waters of these ancient civilizations, and even timelines that predate our known given timelines. And it reaches out into, unfortunate Star Wars situation, and, intergalactic, interdimensional dance, let's call it. And, so then they come here, and I've recently really been working with the idea that whales, dolphins, we have Pleidian, we have Delphinus, the star seeds of the Delphinus, the dolphin star, and swan, Cygnus, and dog star, Sirius, dogs. Like, are we surrounded by aliens in our animal kingdom? So let's, invite them to the party. And this is why I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, and I'm like a friend of all animals. I go out and talk to the bear. I don't fear animals. I find they're our kin, right? And so, there's the eagle, and the eagle is love, and the highest flyer flies closest to Great Spirit, carries our prayers, right? So this is who wanted to be highlighted today, is the eagle. And these are coming from the 7 sacred teachings of the Anishinaabe people, whom are Turtle Island people here. And so they really don't get into politics, which I appreciate so much of the indigenous folk. We really try to stay away from the politics. One of the animals in that word is a tick parasite. So I don't play politics a whole lot, but I do appreciate my ambassadors of the 7 sacred teaching. We got Sasquatch or Sabe. It's honesty, and then turtle is truth, and eagle is love, and beaver is the respect and wisdom. And so bear is courage. We have all these teachers who teach us how to live on Mama Earth in a good way. And, as we think about this eclipse, I really truly believe that this is what this eclipse is about. There's a lot of ideas, and let's again stay away from all the heavy political, man-made, mental masturbating trip fest that humans are so good at. And really just tune into, like, we have a sun, we have a moon, right? Many traditions, the sun is the masculine, the divine masculine, and then the moon is like the divine feminine, yes. And so coming together in a tantric union in an eclipse is actually a very auspicious, sacred loving. To me, it's sacred lovers, hydros, gamos, getting into the beauty of the beloved, right? They caught each other after chasing each other. So romantic. And so I have been just holding this beautiful love affair relationship that's happening for tomorrow as a blessing and a rebirthing and a union that will impregnate us. Each of us individually and collectively, and the Mother Earth herself, is all being impregnated with this new blessing and this new seed of potential to seed and flower and fruit, right? So lots of beautiful, kind, good things coming, which I resonate to you, and I follow you, and I wear your high tikis and your astro jewels because I just adore your beauty. Like we call it here the path of beauty in the indigenous culture. It's always about this walking in a path of beauty. And then also just being able to be the leaven, they say, in the bread and raise up all that, you know,
Oh,
and then feast in this abundance and fertility and, you know, life-giving energies, putting down the death cult. You know, we're being run right now by a death cult, eh? And so it's like, you know, I don't eat of their food, I don't drink of their potions. You just try to stay away
so
from that, yeah?
I love that. I love it because I remember I worked one. I really loved this. I met this incredible guy, and he was so ahead of his time as an Aquarian, but he just could see to the end of anything that was, you know, like you do. Like you just have this past, present, future. Just like you can see the whole spectrum. He definitely was off the spectrum, you know, from a traditional perspective at a university.
Right.
And it was really interesting because there were a lot of Indigenous Māori, but they were so they were really staunch in protecting this because it was hard work being in this, you know, real colonizing land-based university. But I just really loved the vice chancellor because he just was his heart was around bringing more Indigenous people into the space. And so I just was always, you know, I was always trying to get my colleagues to rise above. And there was one staff meeting and I was like, can you not just like see the goodness and, you know, could you not just look at this another way? And they said, you know what, you can just take your rose-colored glasses and fuck off. That was their words. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Well, you know, because I don't want to
Hi.
look at Te Pō. I don't want to look at Te Pō anymore. Ka kite, see ya. And it really was.
Right.
Like, they just made me laugh. And it's true. I don't know. I have rose-colored glasses. I mean, I'm wearing my rose-colored glasses, which cracks me up.
Well,
I choose to
when
see
you
the
look at
roses.
the spectrum, the rainbow, yes, the rainbow, the spectrum, we call it the rainbow bridge. It's your chakras, yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you ever hear of the map of consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
And there's from 0 to about 1,000. And down in the lower vibratory spectrum, if we want to talk about spectrums, you know, it's very low and dense and heavy and fear-based and full of hate and wrath and vengeance and lust and greed and all those special qualities. And then kind of around the mid zone, right, you start entering into like logic and reason, and you start getting into love, right? And then it just goes up to 1,000 into that wisdom. And really, what color glasses do you want to wear, right? Because you're going to be seeing whatever level of consciousness you're looking out from, yes? So to me, I think keep those rose-colored glasses. That's why you emanate beauty. That's why everything around you sparkles. That's why I feel like you are the ambassador of Manifest Star. It's a star. You're a star. You're like Arwen from the Lord of the Rings, eh? Like the elven star. So Arwen is even star. And her power comes from the stars, you know, like Galadriel. I mean, I am a Tolkien fan, and Tolkien was actually a historian and a linguist master. So J.R. Tolkien of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and The Silmarillion and all these books. It's actually translating old lore through the scrolls, and I believe that that actually has a level of accurate history, believe that or not. You know, and then we can get into Joseph Campbell and many of the other Power of the Myth, you know, teachers, Greg Braden, many of us, you know, many teachers out there speaking to these ancient civilizations and this power and this energy. You know, even in the Bible, the first part, it's like the sons of God or whatever came down and married the daughters of the earth. What? So, anywho, yeah.
And I think that's that, but you know, I think so. Well, my reflection on this eclipse is that X marks the spot that's going to be the end of the world. Is actually the X marks the treasure. And the treasure is our silent vigil and finding that space where we hear the ancient stories, we get to the realm, and that realm that you know, that where everything is created and all the nothingness exists. Te kore, we call it, or 27 degrees of Sagittarius in our universe, but it's just a level of consciousness where everything is still and it's beautiful, and you can find everything and reach everyone, and there's no separation. That is a really hard practice for us, busy, and you know, you're constantly reminding yourself, and you have to remind yourself and others even more so when you get these high energy points where, you know, you're told the world's ending, it's all over, but you know, it gets even harder. So I think what I loved about what we sort of were talking about in the beginning was that the streaming through, this allowing of that ancient knowledge, future knowledge, now knowledge, the voices of all of the beings of the universe and this world, that comes through some of us more and some of us more, even more with practice. But we were talking about it. You said you came in with a message, and I'd love to hear from the North stars. What are you feeling
Turtle
into?
Island.
What are you feeling into as the shoots of change? Tell us.
Right. Well, I actually had pulled us out some cards, right? Because I am a tarot, and tarot, it's like ancient Kemet. Kem is Egyptian, and ancient Egypt, before it was Egypt, it was called Kemet or Kem. And it is Ta'ro is royal path. So the Ta and the Ro, Ta is path, Ro is royal, so the royal path. And if you're studying Egyptian numerology, it's a little different than the West. It's connected to numerology, tarot, and astrology. They're three, like trifecta. But if you do the Western, it's a little different because Western's the Fool, starting with 0, and we start with the 1.
Well, it's
Right,
actually
so it's
really
a little different.
interesting. It's really
It's
interesting because the
very
intersection.
interesting.
Well, that's like,
So
yeah, it is.
I
Yeah.
like seeing it from the ancient way of like because it is an initiatory. So kind of some say the traditional Western model of throw is actually based on like business and religion and law and social cultural reality in civilization. I don't see it this way. I see it as, well, yes, life in action, but I also see it as an initiation path. So that by the time you would get to the 1 to the 22 is self mastery, yes? And each way is an initiation in that rite of passage as you learn those lessons and master that one, starting with the 1, the Magi. Anyway, so that being said, I just wanted to invite everybody to see that this is a royal path in, like I am Chakta and Cherokee, and in our way, we look at the good red road, right? You know, the Lakota, many of the teachings from Turtle Island, turtle being truth, on the turtle's back. It's all about being on this path, right? You're on a path. You want to stay on that path. And there's technically 2 paths. And if you're, you know, into the Hopi prophecy, the 2 paths fork in the road, right? And one goes this way, the other goes that way. And you want to be on the right path because, you know, you don't want to go into the blender. So, anywho, Or if you're into Rudolf Steiner, which I'm a big anthroposophist. I love Rudolf Steiner. I'm a Waldorf school teacher. I work at a Waldorf. I like the children, so I stay with the children. Like Yeshua the Christ said, you know, it's the children are like the kingdom of God. You must be like a child to enter into the kingdom of God. So if you want to stay pure and innocent, hang out with the children, and they'll take care of you. They're like perfect energy barometers. So we're moving into what I did for this session of you and I was to look at this timeline that we're in right now. And we also know like CERN plays with timelines. I don't want to get into CERN, but I'm a deep diver. I'm a mermaid, so I deep dive everything, always have.
CERN. Can you
CERN. CERN is in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's a technology that is like a particle hadron accelerator. And technically, we just want to look at the fact that these people are playing with the God particle. They're playing with punching holes into the dimensions. And I believe they're trying to open the dimensions to have entities come through. That's a whole nother story. And we also know NASA is sending rockets. So we know all these little tidbits because they're all little pieces to the puzzle, which then my being puts them all together so I can see the picture, right? So what we have going on for this timeline, and as a direct message to all your followers and listeners, is that standing in the East, and I do a medicine wheel every day. So I start my day every day. I walk my dogs into my forest. I have a medicine wheel. Start the day with opening up the directions of the East, yeah. And in our Eastern card, I got this here is the Hierophant. So in the East, it's in this eclipse, in this timeline, we're being drawn to look at our Jupiter is expansion, but it's also got to do with the priest of like natural cosmic sacred law. Now we know that there's a lot of black magic, at least I know this. I won't speak for you. I see that there's a lot of black magic juju, yeah, that goes on in our politics, the ticks, the parasites. So what I see is that this eclipse is a call back to the sacred, a call to stand in your own powerful personal power position as a priest, as a priestess. I know a lot of in the indigenous cultures of Turtle Island, we don't look at it. We don't look at the eclipse, and you go in and you're praying, you're sweat lodging, you're smudging, you're doing like a lot of cleansing. You're being really careful what you think, what you feel, what you're projecting, because it's like, you know, seeding. Like I said, it's a pregnancy. It's like a gestation. Anyway, so we get called to this reverence. We get called to this place of introspection and to tune in and turn on the great spirit within us. So as the East is the place of the rising sun, what's coming into this energy is a call to the sacred and a return to our original blueprints.
East is like the rising sun as you get up. So
where I'm at, yes. Yeah.
So as you get up, this is the call to respect your own knowledge and spirituality and your own ancestral guides, and just really rise in that place of sacred spirituality or divinity.
Because there's a higher order and a divine intervention occurring. And this higher calling, divine intervention, has to do with the return to the sacred, the return to the cosmic, sacred, universal law.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've come so far
around, and largely being held by women, I've got to say. I got to say that mostly it's us wahine Māori and wahine other cultures who are holding hands around the world and bringing, you know, we are doing this with our hands around our sisters. Yeah.
Beautiful. I see that too.
There's a few men. There's a few. But, you know, I mean, and in terms of that divine intervention you speak about, well, from the astrology perspective, 2012, we hit the most metal Polaris shift. That was the end of the Mayan calendar, not the end of the world. It was the
Right.
end of Polaris as the pole star, and we're heading back
Oh,
to Vega or Vega. We call her Whānui, which Whānui means like just the all families collective. And if you think about woman, we create the families. So that's a
right.
13,000 year cycle, 27,000 years to do the 3 pole stars. Polaris is the North Star. You see it, we don't. We see Vega. And
Right.
so
Right.
when Egyptians, when your Egyptian ancestors were making their most profound magic, Thuban was the star. That was the pole
Mm,
star. So that the earth, that's the child. The earth was not right or left. We went right hard masculine. Now the dial's going. The poles are melting to reform
right.
on the left because the Earth's rotational core like this is going to go like that. It's actually going to
Right.
shift, turn. So we've got to go still again.
Yeah.
We go
Yeah.
the other way. And this is just the evolution of, our Mother Earth and her cycling through with our stars above, with her sun,
Mm,
with the sun. And the
mm,
sun is the dog star, Sirius.
mm,
We call her
mm.
Hinikakaro. She takes the sun to bed down under for winter. And then beyond that, beyond Sirius is Vega. So you can see these cycles from a planetary perspective. We think when we say, oh, the world's ending, no, that's just like, there's just this shifting into
Right.
something we can't even begin to grasp.
Well, it's like morphing. I'd rather say morphing because the caterpillar is coming into the butterfly. That's
Yeah,
how I wants to
I
say it.
like that. I think
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
beautiful. That's a really
More.
profound.
I mean, in a sense, you are dying this illusion. So, like with my children at school, caterpillars spin and spin, a little cocoon to sleep within. And as the caterpillar dies, he wakes up as a butterfly. It's like that spinning, like you were speaking of, like how we are in our access. And I hear very loud and clear there's a pole shift happening.
Yeah.
So the poles are shifting. So yes, it's to create, like in old school Wonder Woman, she spun in a circle, which they do in the Tibetan rites, if you've ever practiced the 5 Tibetan rites. And then she goes into her avatar self, yes? So what if we were spinning and it feels faster and faster to morph and then to our avatar, our higher selves, because that's the other place of this eclipse, is that the moon is your lower self, which makes the chalice. Yes, the feminine is the chalice and it's the lower self. And then the sun is the masculine, it's the blade. Yes, and it's the higher self. And so they're coming together, which technically, you know, without all again of the religious context and all of the woo woo and the juju of the wars. But that Star of David, I don't know if you can see okay, but that Star of David is the lower and the higher self. And, in the Egyptian technologies, they call it the Merkaba. And
Well,
that
and also you
Merkaba,
can see it there as well in my picture. So
perfect,
line of horizon between
right?
the physical realms and the higher. So physical realms being night, above the 7 realms above are the universal realms, the daylight realms, which is if you're standing on the earth. And I always say this: if we were wise, like some of our African friends and family, they would hold the baby whenever it was born within the very first moments of it taking its first breath and bring it under the sky so that it knew its origins as a galactic being and knew
Right.
both the universal and the physical, which would just be embedded and imprinted into the child's, the psyche, the imagination, which, because a lot of us were born in hospitals, or, in New Zealand, we don't even record birth times on birth certificates. Like, we are
Oh,
such
interesting.
donkeys. Like, literally, if you want to find out if your mother can't remember, and a lot of mothers can't remember, you actually have to do, a silent meditation and ask your soul. And sometimes, it takes a bit more getting to. But it's the same thing. I think it's just that assimilation, and we have what we call the word for our Māori word for spirituality is wairua. and it means the convergence of the physical and the non-physical rivers. So the way you do it, the rua being the universal and the spiritual, and it's up to the individual to navigate that, and how you navigate that, that's your rich life's pattern. And for some, it's purely physical. They pass over and it's been a physical life with no real appreciation of their universal. Others, particularly, you know, those of us who spend a lot of time embracing the elements and embracing, you know, the non-animate parts of our experience, you know, we're more universal. And but ultimately each of us with this eclipse, and again, you know, it's a hard cross because we're so used to not even being aware that we're in a river and morphing and merging and flowing and creating, and you know, we're so used to just ignoring it and going out to get us whatever kind of Starbucks coffee you have, or you know, here at some, you know, and rushing into the next activity without any consciousness. So this hard edge, even if people say, okay, end of the world, at least it's bringing you to some awareness that
it's the end of the world as you know it, right? Because your ignorance is about to get updated. Which brings me actually then to the south, which is the temperance card. And I noticed that in this reading of the medicine wheel spread for this eclipse timeline, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 major arcana in a row, which was pretty profound actually. But in that south place, you know, as you're in the south, you have the Southern Star, yes? You guys have the Southern Cross? Well, this is for you guys, but you guys are the seeders of that consciousness. And it's to temper, it's to take all that ignorance, all that fear, all that doom, all that gloom, all that lower spiraling energy that goes like into the black hole, which I call the blender. It just sucks you like a vacuum, you know, and it sucks you down. And then you end up in despair, sorrow, grief, depression, suicide, addiction, etc. So this energy is coming in on that southern front and it's coming to temper. And it's very alchemical, like it's the taking of the lead and making into the gold, you know.
Could you bring the card right up and place it right over your camera? Because I think that's such a beautiful image. Look at that, everyone. And just like soak that in, temperance and south. Wow. Almost like the genie in the bottle, right?
Yeah, she's let out to make our wishes come true. Right? But we can only have that in speaking to manifestar, to manifest. You know, mana is that food of the gods, that mana, M-A-N-N-A, mana. And you have to have mana to manifest, right? You have to have that life force energy, that attractor. You know, if you're in a repulsive state, you're going to repel everything away from you, right? That's just basic physics. So when you look at the sun and the moon, it's like the positive, negative of that battery charge, right? And it's just like, so that's why everything feels so electric and magnetic, and there's powerful energy moving and shifting on this planet right now. Yes, right. But she really does call to action to temper your fear, to temper all of those lower nature qualities, to really bring attention to bringing up the energy, the vibration, the frequency. Yeah. Yeah. So and that sits in the place of desires. That sits in the place of purpose and passions. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So if we just bop down again, so in the corner over, the other way, eastern side, start of the chart.
Right.
Just starts with Aries. This is why this is such an important eclipse. So you've given us an eastern card. This is the line of horizon. And then down below, you've given us a south. Just I'm trying to get my hand there. That's a south. So that's your IC, that's your whakapapa or your heritage. Those are the ancestors that guide you. So that temperance is coming from the south, but it's also coming from our lineage points as wisdom keepers. So there's the, by the way, there's the starting with, I love the curtain, reverence, and then temperance. And so you've started to fill that picture of the rising, the knowing, and the drawing up. And then we go up to the north and head over to the west.
You guys do it different than some here because we do the east, the south, the west, the north in that medicine wheel circle. And it's very important you only enter into the east and then you go around clockwise and then you exit out from the blue spirit trail of the north, which for us is ancestors. So we are literally the mirror opposite of you. And the ancestors sit in the north and then they walk the blue spirit trail back to the east so that when you pass away, you're walking that spirit trail to reincarnate back into the east again. So we are like a mirror of one another, you know, a reflection of one another.
Beautiful.
It all meets in the center, right? It all meets in the center where it's all unified and it doesn't matter which way, above, below, within, without. It all is in the center. I want to bring attention to this card, however, because this is in the place of our karmas and in our place of where we need to, you know, do our spirit work, right?
So the north
this
or
is
where? That's the north. No, that's the west. The west
for
side.
us. We are moving now into the west,
Right.
and the west is the seat of the feminine. It's the seat of the water for us. So when I read, this is what I'm utilizing because this is how I work. But this is the martyr, right? This is the hanged man. And so what I want to say on this is that where there's been all these inversions, and if you're a grid keeper, you know, a lot of us are grid workers, grid keepers, portal keepers, stargate keepers. We work within the elementals. There's a lot more to us than what meets the eye. But for a lot of us who do this work, we've been looking at all the places where the portals have been flipped, and there's technologies planted into those places, and they're running reversals, like they're flipping. So wherein, like say, AI can be used as a tool, it is turned into a weapon where its frequency can be. So, you know, we're just aware of the shadow. We don't feed the shadow. We're not afraid of the shadow. We just see it, right? And so there is a lot of that energy at work and afoot, and it is that sacrificial energy. So just to realize existing in the water, because the water sits in the west for us and in the chalice. So we're again looking at the feminine, we're looking at the chalice, we're looking at the emotional body and the wisdom of the water, what it remembers and the stories that it keeps, like an archive. Because we know Veda Austin, she's in New Zealand as well. I really love Veda Austin, goddess, and she's been working with the water. And so in this place, we need to get ourselves back the way we need to be living in a good way. And I believe in not serving sacrifice, but to make offerings. Like, I don't need to kill something for power and shed its blood like they want to do in Passover in Israel with the 4 heifers, which to me is like the holy cow of India. If you know you're into Krishna, which I love Krishna, this is very offensive. So I like to instead make the offerings, give of my prayer, give of my song, give of my dance, give of my love, make an altar, say blessings, you know, pour charged holy water that I make and feed the plants and the trees. There's a very, very big difference, right? So what it wants to tell us in this timeline is where you are upside down, you need to make yourself right, right? And that sits in the place of our emotions and in our beliefs. Yeah. So that was to me a big teaching card lesson to this time we are in right now. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Because if you don't do
Really
that work, then it just like we were saying, you know, in that Aries energy. Yeah. Because this is what's sitting in the north for us. And so in the north for us is the King
of
of
what?
Wands.
Wow.
The King of Wands. I use the Mermaid Oracle because I always have been a mermaid and I
You
relate.
always have. And I was just going to bring up, just when you were talking about the Hanged Man and technologies, I was really feeling into those ancient calls of the Atlanteans and, you know, when they mucked around. And we've done that. We've done that with the atomic bomb, you know, we split the atom and oh, hell broke. So it's not something that is not known to us. Like sometimes we're too clever and too manipulative for our own good. And it's great to acknowledge that, you know. I mean, down under we have Hini Nui Tipo, the great goddess of the night. And she had a very intimate relationship with Maui, the god, the demigod, who was the great entrepreneur who surfed the tides of Rehua Antares, that massive star, which is so, you know, what's the word I was looking for? Feared in astrology in the north and in Western astrology. But in actual fact, so Maui fished up the North Island and he brought up this ancient knowledge, but he had to go deep. And he became a bit inflated with his own power. So on one of his tiki tours down under into the great goddess of the night, she slammed her thighs shut and boom, he was gone.
Okay.
Actually I did that once at a hoi. This particular person was going on and I was just reminded them and it was like everyone went silent. But it's not so much about death, it's actually about reminding you if you go too far, if you push, manipulate, if you get out of balance and turn upside down, you can expect the universe or your female ancestors to give you a good old slap back into your, you know, that's, you know, you got to take it easy.
Well, that's the reason why Kali, you know, Kali Durga, like, you know,
same energy.
Don't mess with her, you know. I wouldn't want to offend that woman or being.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and I mean, we are centered, as you say. I mean, for us, anywho, I'm not sure how it relates to you and you're down under, but for us, tomorrow is the new moon, yeah? So is it the new moon for you then too as well on the eclipse day for you tomorrow?
Yeah. The new moon with the alignment of the North Node destiny point and with Chiron, the wounded healer. It's the same for all of us. It's just the time is different. But for us, we have a sunrise eclipse and it is the new moon. So we've got the moon, the earth, the moon, the sun, and then those outer planets. And, you know, a really interesting thing is astrologically wise, if anyone's listening, it's your birthday tomorrow, woohoo! But it's 19 degrees of Aries, which means whether you're, because it's for us down under, it's Aries and Libra. So we are the sign and its opposite, so the polarities. But what it means is it's in that middle sphere and the middle from 10 to 20, those are the movers and shakers. It's the second decan. That version of Aries has more sun, Leo, than X. So they're Aries, but they're ruled very much by the sun. So they shake, they agitate, they disrupt. You know, there's.
Well, they're leaders as well, right? Like a leader.
They're the change makers. They're not necessarily the leaders.
Somebody's got to like change the vibe and lead us from the same monotonous, like monotone, almost like, you know, story of the last couple thousand up to how long you want to look back. Right? But being that it's the new moon in Aries, like in that the zodiac, right? It's they call it like the new year, right? Because it's technically in the zodiac, it's like a new year, right? And if you practice the moon, right? You do the new moon is for when you set seeds or set intentions, and then the full moon is when those kind of are up and magnified. And so then for us, you know, you take that every new moon for every moon cycle. But then for the Aries new moon, it's the entire zodiac wheel. So it's the entire solar like year. And so this is exponentiated in the fact that we're having this powerful eclipse energy on this new moon in Aries, which to me is really like the key point. It's what's going to sort of imprint into the waters of this entire solar cycle. Yeah,
And
of the dragon, nonetheless.
It absolutely is. I think the only little added addition to Down Under is because when it's the first day of spring and the first Aries new moon, that's not for us spring. So we're
that's right.
because we're heading into winter. So, and also
That's
on
right.
our Māori cosmology, it's actually the first new moon in the Cancer season, which sets off because we start with winter. That's our new year. When the stars, the Matariki Pleiades, when we see Pleiades, the first sightings of Pleiades, that's the next new moon after that. So we have a little variant, and but it's the reason why I always talk about the Western is because in Māori cosmology, personal evolution was not part of the searing. So the maramataka, the moon cycle, was for crops, was for fishing, was for planting, was for understanding issues that would affect the tribe. It's about the tribe, not the individual. And likewise, the solar system and more so the stars were about the big cycles of growing for your tribe. And if there were going to be, it's all about our relationship with nature and how we look after families into the future. Not about whether or not you're going to get a boyfriend or whether somebody's going to it's very, so in my own practice, it's about like bringing these two world views and helping people just have a greater appreciation of where they take themselves on their own journey, just as you do. It's a navigational. We're essentially leading a canoe that enables others to move out and to navigate these themes, right? We don't have the answers for everyone. We know them for ourselves sometimes, when we remember, and that remembering takes time, don't you think, Shekinah? It's not something that you just come into when you're 20. You got to really get your nose rubbed in the dirt several times, smacked on.
I strongly believe we go through like a mind wipe when people enter in, and then when you get colonized, like I see it in the education system for sure, which is why I work at a Waldorf school, and also like, you really have to look at like how you're being taken away from your instinctive, intuitive, heart-based consciousness of unified consciousness, because as a baby you're just like, there's no separations. They already know that if you put your baby on like media, they don't know that it's a TV with fake stuff. They think it's really happening, right? And so just to wrap that up, it's like there's that whole reality where I want to actually do a workshop on decolonizing the adult and returning to the innocence of the child, and like reconnecting. That's to me Chiron. Like it's this wounded healer phenomenon of like that inner child that got taught to fear and to have shame and a lack of worthiness, that wasn't there when they were born. And if it was, it's epigenetics inherited through the trauma of the bloodlines. So yeah, that's like a law of medicine right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to just bring back to because I know we've wound a lot of like many themes into the spread that you gave us of the royal path. But I was going to ask.
I'm not done.
You're not done. Okay, I'm shutting up. Continue to round us off into the last part.
Well, we have to complete it because we're in the north, and I just want to say north is then this king of the wands, yes. And actually in the tarot astrology of the Egyptian way, this would be the king of Aries. So this would be Aries, which is interesting that it showed up. And so that this one is I am. That's the key mantra of the Aries energy is I am. And they say that that is the most powerfulest two words, and that anything that you say after those two words is really going to manifest. So, as we look at it, this call to return to the sacred within the East and to the universal law, which is overriding, you know. So here we have the me, M-E, you flip it and you get we, right? So you go from the me to the we, right? So anyways, and that's called temperance, where this narcissistic culture begins to recognize that it's not about us without us. And we're all in this together.
I want to just quickly, I don't want to detract, but I really want to share this just on that rounding of the wheel, which you just gave us, because I have to hold it up. I took a snapshot of the eclipse for everyone, because can you see the houses? Just as you talked about this call to spirituality rising in through with the I am, and this really the security of knowing and having. So this is the eclipse energy. I mean, it's got our time zone, but it'll be wherever. And because I checked a couple of other time zones as well, and you can see here there is the moon, the sun, and Chiron. But the houses that are activated, which is really important for all of us, are our houses of spirituality that we rise into the I am and that we take into the I have. So that's
interesting.
the unconscious that takes us through to our unique and independent vision, our rising as the I am that we manifest. And it's just so unbelievably aligned with what you were sharing in terms of, where we go. So hope you don't mind me just bringing that in. I just had to
No, I think it's beautiful. Like I said, we are mirror reflections, And the central card where I say like in the wheel is the cog where it all comes together. What number do you see?
It's an 8. I can't really see it. Is it? I'm just guessing.
That's correct.
I'll just
Just
guess.
like you were saying before, it's the 888 transmission, right? And this was the central card that came out. And in this card, it represents justice and strength and magnetic energies, yeah. And the symbol is we see that she's freeing the whale. Now, the whale is a symbol of our subconscious, unconscious realms, and it's the singer of the song of life. And as we know with the whales, like they just add clicks and whistles every year, but it's the same song since the beginning of time.
Clicks and whistles.
Right. So beautiful. We set it free, right? We set it free. We set free our power and the Mama Earth's power, the truth of who we are and what we are and where we came from and even where we're going. So I think it's just such a beautiful, to me, this eclipse is beautiful. It's medicine, it's beauty. It's how can we walk again in a good way together and be the people that we want to see in this world, like be the change you want to see in this world. If you don't like all the problems, then stop participating and do it differently, right? Yeah.
So there's actually 5. So as I said, you're going around the wheel, returning to these, but then circling like the serpent into the middle and pushing out.
Very fascinating. Yeah, like if you make a medicine wheel, there's always the center where all the directions meet. And so, like, I've been doing medicine wheel for so many years now. I can't remember, but they started morphing from just east, south, west, north, and then of course we have the elements of the air and the fire, water, and the earth, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, there's angels, and then oh, these are the winged ones, the fairies, and oh, these are the dragons, oh, these are the merfolk, the water, the mermaids, and like they just keep morphing into next levels. So I call them the wise ones. And they're kind of like a mafioso. There's kind of like, you don't mess with the wise ones, right? You have to show up with respect and you have to show up in honor and like in a good way. And they see through everything and they're record keeping everything. And so for me, 2020 was Judgment Day. 20 is judgment. And it's also resurrection. So it's the death of illusion. You know, you mentioned the Mayan calendar, Maya in the Sanskrit legends, you know, Maya's illusion. So if you have the Mayan keepers of time, that's the keepers of the time of illusion, as we've been living separate and as we've been living in this like black magic spell. And so when we see the end of the Mayan calendar, we're seeing the end of that false grid and the return to the truth, right? So this is all connected. It goes very deep and very wide, very far.
Love that. It does go very deep and it does go very wide. And that's a beautiful sharing. I just, I almost want you to just like hold each of the cards up in that lovely circling just to remind everyone. And then I have another question for you. I have so many questions for you. I hope.
So we'll start with the East day. And so the East is the Hierophant, the priest. I like that it's actually a feminine. So it's a priestess. Ruled by Jupiter, it's the 5. And they say we're moving into the Jupiter age, the age of Jupiter. It's the new Earth. So that's very interesting. So I could see that this is the coming to the new Earth. This whole eclipse is the impregnation of the new Earth, right? It's very symbolic. In the South, in the place of passion and purpose and desire, we have this temperance. So, you know, where your ego is driving, you must be like, sit in the back seat, por favor. And you want your soul driving, you want your spirit driving. Your Merkaba is your vehicle, right? So in dream interpretation, you see somebody's driving the car, that's their physical body. Somebody's in the house, that's their spiritual body. So you want to know who's driving the car, and you want to know who's the keeper of the house, right? So this is the West. This is that place of where we need to stop self-sacrificing and putting ourselves in this martyrdom role. The archetype of all of that has got to end. It's just, you know, time to make the reversals and correct, you know, dot your I's, cross your T's, right? This is the North. And so again, this is Aries, the king of Aries. I am king of wands. And then in this central card is the 8. And it has to do with justice, magnetism, setting free all that which has been imprisoned, liberation. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
I love that song. It's beautiful. So can you tell us about where people can reach out for you, and particularly if they're wanting to learn from you? Can you, I mean, I will put your links, but what's the best way if somebody wants to connect with you and all of your wisdom? Because every single time I'm honored with sharing any space with you, my darling sister. I am always just blown away by the amount of wisdom in that tiny frame.
Little tiny people, you know, they say like big things come in small packages, yeah. So I'd like to just say that you know, I do the teaching for the children, and that's kind of my main gig. I wrote a book, Frequency, the Hour of Power Has Come, and I encourage people to tune into that book because it's all about this time. I wrote that book right before COVID happened, and I had somebody give me some money to publish it because they were like, you have to get this out now. But the thing is it's all happened. Every single thing that I wrote in that book is happening. I had no idea it was going to actually happen. So I find that that's an important thing. And my personal connection is through Shekinah Ma. So I can give you my email because that's probably the easiest.
So I'll put
Shekinah
that
Ma
as a link.
108. Yeah.
description for the video if anyone wants to
And
find it.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I love Facebook friending people. I do make sure you're not a bot or some kind of crazy. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
you. Shekinah Ma is very able to stir up a great debate on Facebook, aren't you? You can
yeah.
you
I'm a
get.
no bullshit person. I walk with Sasquatch, so I am forced to be in honesty. And actually, it's so relieving because when I was a kid and I had to lie and I had to pretend and I had to conform, it was terrible. It was miserable. I hated it. I fought it on every level. Um, it's such a relief to walk in honesty, but in that also same sense, if you are a steward, and this is also a return to stewardship, you can't pretend anymore. You can't hide anymore. And you can't look the other way when somebody's abusing another. So, with the power comes responsibility. So, it's okay to stay quiet. Just, you know, you're gonna stay quiet. That's all. Nobody's gonna hear about you in the spirit worlds. They wanna see who's ready for this ascension, right? And so, yeah, they're looking out. And I say, time to rise.
Which is
Yeah,
the call of the Taniwha, the call of the dragon, is
yeah,
the flying phoenix that rises. We're not
right?
we're
Yeah.
meant to rise. And that is a beautiful
Whoa, yeah.
cycling, isn't it? It's a beautiful cycling of this time. I think I feel it with so many, as I said, mostly women. This
Mm,
rising comes for
mm,
standing and maybe it's because I really do think it is if you have to steward children
mm,
and you do that with love in your heart, that you
mm,
understand that we are connected. Like,
mm.
there's no separation. So we can't pretend. We can't,
No.
we can't be unaware. I mean, some of us can, but, we
Well, I
can.
don't like the sensation ever since a kid, do anything wrong and then you can't go to sleep and
Mm,
you can't have peace
yeah.
because you're not living in integrity. And
Mm,
you have point zero zero, what is it, within the level of perception of awareness within the visible light spectrum, I think it's 0.0032%. It's something very low. It's below half of 1% awareness of the visible light spectrum.
yeah.
So, given that, we're running around being like, oh, I think I know everything, and you see a fraction of nothing, like a nanoparticle, what's really going on here.
Yeah.
I think that you are probably always going to have a hole in your heart and you're going to try to fill it, and it's never going to be okay. It's the hungry ghosts, as we like to say in Chinese medicine. It's like you got the hungry ghosts and you're never going to be sated, satisfied. You're going to be running around, so to me, it's all quality, not quantity, right? So the quality of life, the bliss, your access to bliss, that's priceless.
Mm,
And nothing is as good as it,
mm.
right? So children are masters of that, right? So, yeah, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, my darling friend, for being with us. And I was going to ask if you wanted to close us with something beautiful uh,
Mm,
that will seal this incredibly illuminating and delightful offering for those of you who decide to hear the call and stand in your own power for this amazing eclipse.
yes, 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 yes. Well, the first one that came out is this beautiful smoky quartz. So I'm just gonna put this as the key code, the key holder. And so just if we close our eyes and just, envision in your mind's eye, your third eye, your dreamer's eye, your spirit eye, And just see in this beautiful crystal. In the times of Atlantis, we had the fire crystals or the 2-eye stones. And they're what fired the grids of Atlantis, run the power, the free energy technologies ran through crystal. And so we're tuning into this beautiful crystal, encapsulating key. And we're just putting it right into our hearts, which also are a crystal oscillator. Our heart is a crystal oscillator. And so we're just putting this key of this crystal that we've just put through with this last hour of information and shared connection and all this medicine and all this love and all this beauty has gone into this crystal, which we put now into our own crystal oscillators of our heart, and then we just spin it. And it just spins like a wheel. And it just goes from our own hearts into our homes, into our lands, out and around into our communities, out and around from up here in Turtle Island of North America, from right up to Polaris to the North Pole energies. So we spin up to the north, and then we spin back and around over to the east and out through the west and down to the south, above and below, left to the right, to the within, to the without, and we just share this love and wisdom and medicine and beauty and goodness and crystal codes and light codes. And we just pulse it like that pulsating kitty cat purr, purring it into existence, purring it into the cosmos, into the earth, into the air, into the water, and into the fire, into the spirit. And so it is. And so we shall be set free, able to rise and ascend in this new earth. Ooh, Kitty came back. See, she likes that. Kitty's back. And we just know, as the kitty cat tells us, so that it is so. It is done. Ashe. So it is.
Oh, Matu. Thank you,
Oh, kid.
Thank you.
Her baby. That was awesome. The kitty cat just knows. Be like the kitty. Be like the kitty.
You'd be like the pussy, guys.
Right. Have some purr therapy and just tune into those higher dimensions like the cat people do, right? And honestly, in animal totem, you know, this is a domesticated kitty cat, of course, but you know, the wild cat, the mountain lion, the cougar, the jaguar, the tiger, you know, these lions, these cats, these are powerful, powerful shamanic beings, right? And really, they in the animal totem carry leadership. So it's time to stop looking outside for leaders, and it's time to come in and find the leader within you. Kitty cat loves you because she's just started to try to get on the phone with you. She just knocked the phone right off. So she feels you. I think she's feeling you. Kitty cat, you can't get her. Kitty. There you go.
Beautiful. Oh, darling.
Sorry, she's just taking the show right on.
She has, and
So
I love
anyway,
it. And that's a beautiful way to end, Ruby. Thank you for sealing what has been such a wonderful hour. I know everyone who listens to this is going to gain so much and take that forward, standing in their own power. And yeah, thank you, darling. And look forward to the next, where we go next. Modi order.
right? Yeah, I know the planet is spinning faster and faster, so I do believe we're going to have a pretty awesome roller coaster ride for the next. Yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Well, you're a gorgeous goddess, and we love you.
Bye,
Karma.
Ruby. Likewise. Kia ora.